You will never lose your phone ever again. Think about what the absolute worst thing that can happen if you lose your phone. Is it someone picking up your phone and posting racist tweets under your account? Well, Naomi is about to experience something very close to that. In this video, we will be going through how to beat the psychotic stalker from Unlocked. The film begins with our protagonist Naomi falling asleep on the bus on the way home. What she doesn't know is that because of her intrusive melatonin levels, she is about to experience hell. Having loose pockets is a sure way to get robbed, especially in a big city. If you know you're going to be on a long bus journey, you have to make sure your valuables are kept close to you and secured. Let's take one of the busiest public transport systems as an example. The NYPD reports that out of all the crimes that takes place on public transports in New York, 21% of the victims were sleeping. Although this takes place in Korea with substantially different cultures, I would still be cautious. This is why if I didn't have zip-up pockets, I would have kept my phone and wallet on the opposite side pocket with my hand placed on it and tried my best to not fall asleep. Anyway, Naomi falls asleep and her phone slips out of her pocket, and when she gets off the bus, she doesn't realize it. We are then shown someone picking up the phone. The next day, we are introduced to Naomi's life. We find out she is very dependent on her phone for both her social life and her work, as she is a social media marketer. This is why she panics when she finds out her phone is missing. However, a woman calls claiming she picked up the phone and can return it later. Little does Naomi know that the stalker is using the voice of a woman and later tells Naomi that her phone is cracked, so she has to collect it at the repair shop. Now, this may not raise any major suspicions just yet, but it is always good to be cautious. She should go with either her friend or her dad, or do a quick search of the address before heading off to it. As this is occurring, dead bodies are being found locally, and this detective here is spearheading the investigation as there are concerns of a serial killer lurking in the area. Little does the detective know his whole life is about to change. Upon Naomi arriving to the repair shop, the technician, who we as the audience know is a stalker, gives Naomi a form to fill which requires her giving up her password. This is why Naomi should have looked into this repair company, especially before giving up her password. A quick search would have shown if this was a real business or not. Furthermore, if the stalker did go through all the effort to establish a business, then this is far scarier than we thought. This is because to establish and register a business in Korea, the Foreign Investment Promotion Act requires lengthy procedures, which normally takes between 4 to 6 weeks. Therefore, the effort required to do all of this means the stalker has far more sinister intentions. The best thing for her to do would be to thank the guy and leave, taking her phone to the official technicians of the phone company, may it be the Samsung or Apple store. This is because her phone houses valuable information and bank details, and additionally, in this day and age it also has access to her entire life. Additional ways to safeguard herself include using a VPN, utilizing two-factor authentication, using random password generating applications, and never downloading anything without knowing the source. Finally, she should have backed up her data onto a separate device, that way she could remotely wipe the broken phone to ensure full security when technicians access it. What Naomi shouldn't do is give her password away without knowing anything about this repair company. So anyway, Naomi gives her password away to this repair company she knows nothing about, and we are shown the stalker installing what appears to be spyware into her phone. We as the audience have also just learned something here. This stalker is very smart. He has technical skills in both software and hardware and is very precise and meticulous. As mentioned earlier, going through the process of establishing a business for the sole purpose of causing harm is psychotic in itself, but pairing with what we just learned about a lurking serial killer in the area just amplifies the stakes, and Naomi is thrown right in the middle of all of this. After Hackerman finishes up with her phone, she thanks him but doesn't realise that her life is about to be destroyed. Every movement on her phone appears on the stalker's monitor in real time, and every call and every text is tracked. The next day, we find out the stalker has been hard at work. We find out that in just one day he has acquired her bank details, house code, apartment information and social media information, but it seems extortion isn't his goal. He has a picture of what appears to be his last victim, which he changes to Naomi, indicating the worst. The next scene cuts to the detective having dinner with his wife discussing their estranged son. As the bodies were found near plum trees, which their son has a special bond with, he suspects that their son may be the serial killer. Personally, this would be my Asian parents' second worst nightmare after me not becoming a doctor. Anyway, these suspicions are confirmed when he searches his house and finds the most 4K evidence he could have found, including photos of past victims. Unfortunately, the stalker is always a step ahead and is alerted by this. The next day, the stalker visits Nami's cafe, which is run by herself and her father. She doesn't recognize him as he was wearing a mask at the repair shop, so he begins talking to her and manipulating her into believing they have the same interests, which he learnt through the spyware. Now, I am a true believer of true love, but come on, same video game, same enjoyment of plum juice, same music taste all within an hour, and also after your dad told you he lied about being a regular. I think it's time to be suspicious. Anyway, the next scene shows the dad being duped into installing the same malware and then hit over the head after being tricked to go outside. He has now set up a new base at the dad's house and begins to ruin Nami's life even more. He starts by posting on her burner account, bragging about getting a pay rise and talking bad about her co-workers, which inevitably gets her fired. Okay, I think it's now time to be fully alarmed. It shouldn't be hard for her to figure it all started when her phone got fixed, which is why I would now start being careful with what I say. The more we let the stalker believe we are still clueless, the better chance we have to get the upper hand. Nami's best friend is the only person that believes her, which is why I would create a plan with her by writing on pieces of paper while talking over in order to trick the stalker. At this point, I would refrain from involving the police in the orthodox way due to the digital skills of the stalker. Therefore, I would write on a piece of paper that I had been hacked and my life was in danger, stating that it all started from when I got my phone fixed. The officer should alert the higher ups, which may get the attention of the detective, who has knowledge that the last victim also experienced the same, where it also started when they got their phone fixed at the same shop. This should allow a plan to be devised in order to ambush the stalker. Some of you may suggest leaving the phone at home, however, Nami is a social media marketer and avid user of her phone, so any deviations in behaviour could alert the stalker. But this doesn't happen, and Nami reports the hack to the most useless man in Korea with zero evidence, all while the stalker is listening in. Great. Nami has no choice but to call the fake business card given by the stalker, which is him pretending to be a technician that can help her. Just like Julius Caesar, the stalker divides and conquers by manipulating Nami into believing her best friend did it. If this were anyone else, this would be alarming. All the coincidences, in addition to all of this occurring from when she had her phone repaired, is enough to alert anyone. As mentioned earlier, I would go along with the conversation and when he leaves, write out a plan on paper with the friend in order to figure out a game plan and way of communicating from now on. This doesn't happen though, and Nami believes that her best friend did it. Great job, Nami. Back at the dad's house, we see the stalker reassuring him that Nami will be okay as long as she doesn't suspect anything, which means that she'll probably be okay for a very long time. If I were the dad, I would be looking around for sharp objects or anything that can help release my hands from being tied while the stalker is busy. However, this is very risky as his daughter's life is on the line, and the stalker is clearly very smart, so it would have to be careful movements while he's not in the room. Anyway, we find out more dead bodies have resurfaced and the detectives believe it's his son's doing. He and his partner investigate the repair store, and to their surprise, it's been abandoned with no trace. Nami runs into the detectives at the store and they devise a plan to lure him to her house tonight. Later that night, the stalker arrives at her house and the detective confronts him, expecting it to be his son, but he doesn't recognize him. This takes us to a crossroad where either A, the stalker has been pretending to be the son this whole time, or B, the detective doesn't recognize his own son anymore after not seeing him for a long time. Either way, the detectives have no grounds to hold him, so they let him go. Believing Nami won't be safe in her apartment tonight, they drop her off at her dad's house, not knowing that this is the stalker's new base of operations. Before leaving, Nami does the smartest thing she's done yet and tells the detectives that she'll text them if anything happens, but writes on a piece of paper that any text from her means danger. Nami enters the house and discovers that her dad is missing. After a bit of taunting, the stalker shows himself and shows her a video of her dad in a bathtub with a knife to his throat. Either this is pre-recorded or there is an accomplice, but this is still a very challenging situation due to the latter meaning calling his bluff might result in the dad's death. The stalker gives her a dilemma, either kill him and her dad dies, or give herself up and the dad lives. While it is tempting to call his bluff and harpoon the stalker right there, I would stall as long as possible and reassure the stalker that I would give myself up. I would also say that the police were on their way so I can text them saying that all is well. This would alert them, and as long as you have maxed out your charisma stat, you should be able to stall long enough for backup to arrive. Alternatively, we know the stalker is psychotic and is most likely lying, and will kill the dad regardless, so shanking him right there on the spot is also a valid option. This is because career law states that if a person performs an act in order to prevent unjust infringement of one's own or another person's legal interest, they will not be punished if there are reasonable grounds for the act. The fact that this is a psychotic serial killer with my dad tied in the bathtub is all the reasonable grounds for me to back out the blade and shank the stalker right in the jugular veins. Anyway, Nami gives in and we find out that the dad is in their own bathtub and the video was pre-recorded. The stalker tells her to drop her weapon or her dad dies, which she complies to, which leads the stalker to submerging Nami into the bathtub along with her dad. Due to the text which the stalker made Nami send to the detectives earlier, they arrive just in time and beat the living hell out of his pretty face. However, he has one final revelation and is about to brutally destroy this detective. The stalker isn't his son and has been pretending this whole time. His son was his first victim and he has been assuming his identity ever since in order to evade capture. The detective and his wife never fell out with their son, and it was the stalker texting the mother this whole time and pretending to be estranged. The detective pulls out his gun in rage, but before he is able to pull the trigger, Nami, who has just been freed by the detective's partner, takes his gun and shoots the stalker. The film ends with Nami and her father nurtured back to health and returning to their cafe happy and well. In conclusion, on the beatable scale, I would give this stalker a 6 out of 10. The only reason this isn't lower is because of his incredible skill set in technology, which in this day and age is more dangerous than any weapon. Finally, the reason this isn't higher is due to the avoidable mistakes that Nami made. Therefore, I certainly believe this stalker could have been both prevented and beaten.